So you've worked really hard to get a book out into the world, and that is no joke. Now comes a time when you have to promote that book. And I know how uncomfortable that is. I got one sitting back there that I almost never talk about. And so I want to ask you, how are you doing around that feeling that your work, even a book that you deeply believe in clearly, feels insignificant to talk about next to what's going on in the world? How you doing with all that?
It is no joke, Yvonne. I'm putting a lot of energy into getting this book launched, getting reviews for the book, and part of me feels like, who cares? The world is burning. And
Just love that phrase, create the impossible. Yes, let's do that.
that's what we need to do if we're going to innovate, and that's what we need to do right now in this moment, this country and in the world.
Have you ever sat down to do your work and thought, how does any of this matter right now? Before my guest, Melissa Dinwiddie, and I sat down to even hit record, we had a conversation that it didn't stay in a neat, quiet little box. We ended up talking about how hard it's been to do our work at all. It feels impossible to talk about play and creativity when everything feels heavier than business as usual. And we thought, well, that's worth talking about. That conversation actually shaped what we're going to talk about today. So, yes, Melissa has a new book, a shiny new book called Innovation at Work. But this isn't going to be a typical book interview. It's about the tension that comes up when things get tough and you still want to be creative and put good work out in the world. Creativity, experimentation, and play aren't indulgent distractions. They're how we stay human and engaged in hard times. So if you've been feeling that struggle, this conversation is for you. So let's get into it. Melissa, thank you so much for being with me today.
Yvonne, thank you for having me. It is such a delight to get a chance to chat with you.
Oh my gosh, yes. What do you think the ideas are in your book, Innovation at Work, that are especially important right now when business feels impossible to do as usual for so many people?
Oh my gosh. Well, the book is structured around it's structured around four sections, which are mapped to the three steps of my Create the Impossible framework.
I
And
just love that phrase, create the impossible. Yes, let's do that. Okay.
Right? Yeah, that's what we need to do if we're going to innovate, and that's what we need to do right now in this moment, this country and in the world. And so the three steps of my Create the Impossible framework really tie with the idea of letting go of perfectionism, which is so tied in with what we need to do if we're going to play. And in fact, the first step is play hard. And so when people hear me say that, their minds sometimes go to, oh, what does that mean? Like go to Vegas and get wild? No, that's not what I mean. It
Uh,
means to embrace your inner 4-year-old, to let yourself experiment and explore and make messes. It's getting into that space of really exploring.
yeah.
That's what I mean by play hard. If you imagine a little kid playing in a sandbox,
Uh-huh.
and by the way, my business is called Creative Sandbox Solutions. And my first book is called The Creative Sandbox Way, which is based on this image of a kid playing in a sandbox. If you think about a kid playing in a sandbox, they're not trying to impress anyone.
It's
Th-
messy.
It's messy. They're not trying to make money. They're not trying to
Right.
win awards or get a blue ribbon. They're purely exploring. They're thinking, what would happen if, right? They're in
Yeah.
that space of what would happen if. That's what I mean by play hard. That's step one. Step two is make crap.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is the opposite of perfectionism. Perfectionism is Everything has to be perfect, everything has to be amazing. And when we're in that mindset, guess what happens? We don't start anything at all because we can't allow ourselves to produce anything that isn't perfect and amazing right from the start. So therefore, we don't produce anything at all. So make crap is all about lowering the bar, allowing ourselves to literally make terrible things. Because when we lower the bar that much, it eliminates that starting friction. It allows us to just try anything.
So making crap, if I'm understanding it right, means like if you're writing something, let it be bad. It's
Yes.
like don't edit while you're writing.
Yes.
That's gonna come later. Just let it come out
Exactly.
blah, right?
Think
Yeah.
about if you are thirsty and you need a glass of water and you come to a tap, a faucet that you haven't used in a really long time and you turn it on and what comes out, it's rusty, it's
Uh-huh.
gunky, it's brown, it's disgusting. How do you get to the clear water? The only way you're going to get to the clear, delicious, pure, beautiful water is by letting it flow, letting the yucky, gunky, rusty, awful, disgusting water out first. That's how you're going to get to the clear water. And it's the same thing with our creative production. And
Love
writing is a
it.
perfect example. Anytime I'm writing anything, just start. And in fact, that is guidepost number 5 out of the 10 guideposts in my book, The Creative Sandbox Way. Number
Uh-huh.
5 is just start. When in
Just
doubt,
it's the
just
hardest
start.
thing, even when it comes to like an
Yep.
exercise program. It's like,
Yeah.
I try to move my body every morning, and I do most mornings, but man, it's the starting that's hard. And once I'm moving, I'm good. I'm like, oh, okay, this feels good. You know?
It's starting friction is real. And
Yeah.
so to that point, one of the things that I've learned from the mentors and wise people that I have encountered in my many years is what can we do to eliminate the hoops, eliminate the barriers, and reduce that starting friction? So, for example, I know people who have gone to bed in their exercise clothes,
Mm,
put their running shoes right by their bed. Or, for example, make a commitment with a friend that on such and such a day at such and such a time, you're going to meet to go running together or go to the whatever exercise class or whatever. If you make a commitment with another person, you'll make it happen. And some people are really good at following through on commitments to other people and not very good at following through on commitments to themselves. So we've played hard, we've made crap. Now, step three is learn fast. We're going to use every experience as a learning opportunity.
okay. How does that
Whether
work? Give me an example.
so you have a piece of writing, say, and you've gotten some feedback on it, and people say, well, it worked this way, it worked, and it didn't work for me in this way. Instead of saying, oh, I suck as a writer, oh my God, I need to quit writing, which is what I would have done, say, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to incorporate that feedback, take what resonates for me about that feedback, and edit my writing to pull that feedback into my writing in a way that's going to strengthen the writing. Make
Yeah,
sense?
it totally does. I'm going back to my acting days for a second. One of my best acting teachers ever was Seth Barish, and he's got a book called 99 Bits of Craft. And when I was studying with him in actual classes, he brings you through certain exercises. They're like tools in a toolbox that you can pull out. They all have names. One of them was called Big Bad Actor. So he would watch us do a scene in class, and then he would say, okay, well, Yvonne, I think I want you to do big bad actor for this one. And big bad actor is kind of like making crap. It's like being
Ha!
as big and bad as you can be as an actor. It's like shove off all the stuff that's like you as an actor trying to look good and look like you're being a really, doing really good work, and just be big and bad. And it's amazing to watch somebody do that and watch what happens to the scene. And The cool thing is you can always pull back, which is what I'm
Right.
hearing from you is the learning fast, right? Scenes would transform. It was
Yeah,
crazy. It was so cool, you know?
I love that. I work with a lot of corporate teams, organizational teams, and the idea is that you've got to debrief whatever is happening. You've got a product launch. What happened with that product launch? Did it go well? What went well and what bombed?
Mm,
And whether something is successful or not successful, learn from those experiences and integrate that learning into what happens next.
hmm.
That doesn't always happen.
What
Yeah.
usually happens?
Well, I don't know what usually happens necessarily, but we want to make sure that the learning always is getting incorporated.
Yeah.
And that's what that learn fast step is about. And ideally, this three-step framework is a continuous cycle. So we're always in one or more of these steps at any given time. And this cycle cannot help but lead to breakthroughs and innovations.
So my question is this, what is it that keeps people, in your opinion, from playing hard?
One of those things I would identify as, well, basically fear, which it comes out as perfectionism,
Hmm.
as, the unwillingness to take risks. Lack of psychological safety is a big one in the team
Hmm.
environment. But, when I was a professional artist, Yvonne, I actually didn't really have problems producing my projects for my clients. I never missed a deadline. But where I really struggled was making art for myself. And I
Mm.
spent a solid decade, where I almost never made any art for my own fulfillment, my own joy.
Oh, that makes me so sad.
I was miserable. I mean, it's so hard to express the depths of unhappiness and misery that I was living. I was living the least creative life. It felt like I was living the least creative life while I was making my living as a professional artist.
I'm putting myself in your shoes here and thinking, okay, I'm making art for a good portion of my day for other people. I got nothing left in the tank. Was it that?
Well, so here's from this vantage point now looking back, there were a few things that were going on. One was, yeah, there was like, I don't have time. That's really a story
Mm-hmm.
because I certainly could have carved out 15 minutes a day to play in the creative sandbox.
Right. And most people don't think that's enough.
I didn't think it was enough.
Yeah.
Like, of course not. Of course not. But I certainly could have. But I bought into this story that I needed great big chunks of time.
Mm-hmm.
I bought into a story that everything I produced had to be amazing. And it was all based in fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really all rooted in fear. And I also bought into a story that everything I made had to bring in money, that I couldn't possibly take time to make something that wasn't going to be bringing in money for my business.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And I love that you're putting it in the context of telling yourself a story because that's what we do. Whatever
Yeah,
we believe about ourselves, the world, our lives, interactions with other people, there really are stories. And
yeah,
there might be some factual stuff that's involved in there, but for the most part, it's beliefs on repeat. And that's what I'm hearing you talk about is you believed you needed a big chunk of time. You believed it needed to be amazing work every time. And the stories that we tell ourselves, they can empower us or they can disempower us. And those were some disempowering stories you were functioning with at that point,
absolutely. And I
right?
had no idea that I was doing it to myself. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
although I have to say it's not entirely true because I think there was some part of me that on a very deeply subconscious level knew that I was doing this to myself, but it was so buried that I didn't understand that. If
Did
that
it
does
it
that make
just
sense?
yeah, absolutely, because it feels so real.
It felt
Yeah.
so real. Like I felt so powerless in the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
And it was only, years down the road when I realized, wait a minute, I'm not powerless here. I actually it was in 2010, 2011 when I started interviewing artists and creatives who were making their living from their creative thing. And I was interviewing an artist, gallery exhibiting artist, and who also mentors people who wanted to become gallery exhibiting artists. And she would tell her mentees, this blew my mind. She would tell her mentees, if you can't spend 15 minutes a day making art, you're making an excuse. And it completely blew my mind because I thought, these people, they're spending money, paying her good money to mentor them because they want to have the gallery exhibiting art careers and they can't even give themselves 15 minutes a day. Oh my God. I'm not alone here. And I
Yeah.
realized like I felt this like I remember the flush of hot blood. Like that's me. That's
Yeah.
me. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I have been making an excuse.
I
And
oh,
that
there's
very day, I remember it was February 1st because I remember making a commitment to myself, I'm going to try this. And I can't imagine that 15 minutes a day would actually, you know, do anything, but I'm going to do this. It's a short month. It's only 28 days.
Mhm.
So I can do 4 weeks. I'm gonna try this. And Yvonne, it changed my life.
Oh, you're giving me inspiration right now because there is a project that I want to work on, and I would told myself I was going to give myself 15 minutes a day, and I haven't been. It's not.
It's
It's
hard.
it is so hard.
It's really hard.
And it
But
is
it's
all fear-based, right? Like
yeah,
you can make every excuse in the book that seems relevant. It seems true.
yeah.
And it is in the end an excuse. And it
Can I tell
is,
you
yeah.
can I tell you one of the excuses that I used at that moment in my life and that I've also used since then,
Uh-huh.
which is not a good excuse. It was, well, but my business, is really creative and I'm making art for my business, so that counts. I have used that excuse many times.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
remember friends asking me, Melissa, do you feel like but is that enough? Like, do you feel like you're getting enough,
I'm just
creative
thinking of what
juice?
a creative excuse it was too. Like right? Like you have creatively made an excuse for not being creative.
Right? Yeah. And I remember
So
saying to
that's
my friend,
creative.
yeah, it's right now, it's fine. I feel like I'm getting what I need
Oh my
from my
gosh.
business because I was, designing my website and I was,
Yeah,
making all sorts of visual art things for my website and also just the creativity of
sure.
what I was
It's
doing. It was feeding
absolutely.
me.
I could totally see myself doing that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are so good at this, aren't we?
Oh, we're so good at it.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
absolutely.
And the other thing, I mean, I keep coming back to this idea of fear. So, going back to our original conversation before we scheduled today's call, these times we're living in are filled with fear. There are
Oh,
moments in
so
my
much.
day where I feel crippled with fear and it keeps me from doing something joyful or playful. Because when we are feeling fear, joy, creativity, play, those are often like the first things to go.
Yes.
Why is that exactly the wrong instinct, would you say?
Well, one reason, the first that pops into my mind is because in the environment that we're living in right now, particularly because joy is an act of resistance. We're living in an environment right now where we've got, let's just put it this way, tyrants want us to be isolated and in despair. And when we are living in joy and when we are connected in community and living in joy, expressing that joy, we are in direct resistance to tyrants, to tyranny.
Mm.
So the more that we can be connecting with other people, expressing our creativity, creativity and innovation are in direct opposition to tyranny. And there's a lot of innovation that's happening in, say, the activist community.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the whistles.
Frog suits.
Look at the frog suits. Look at the singing resistance.
uh, Buddhist monks walking
Buddhist monks
thousands of
walking.
miles, right?
There's a lot of innovation that has to happen in the resistance movement because how else does the resistance movement fight back against tyranny? That's basically all the resistance movement has is they don't have money, they don't have power, they have people and community
Hmm.
and the crowdsourcing ideas.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking about the power of community in and of itself. I know that you have found a lot of consolation in that. And over the past few weeks, I have been in touch with friends more often for deep conversation. And, the thoughts of how can we be as human and loving to each other as possible? That's resistance, you know?
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Like,
Every loving act, every empathetic act, every caring act, every act of human creativity that is showing kindness and caring and love, it is an act of resistance.
it'll
My
never feel like enough either.
No, it will never feel like enough. We all have to give ourselves and each other a lot of grace. Pick one, maybe two things that nourish you, that you want to do, and do those and let everything else go because we cannot burn ourselves out.
How can you keep going if you burn yourself out?
Exactly. And it is never going to feel like enough, but if everybody actually does something, this is how we do it.
My favorite quote on the days when I'm feeling overwhelmed, whether or not we're in the middle of crazy world events or it's just me feeling like I'm overwhelmed, because I tend to do that to myself. I'm like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overwhelmed. And then I have to go, okay, do what you can with what you've got where you are. It's a quote
Yeah.
from Teddy Roosevelt's autobiography that he quoted somebody else, Squire Bill Widener. And it is like a mantra for me because it acknowledges that I'm never going to feel like what I'm doing is enough,
Yeah.
but I can do what I can with what I've got where I am. And it's something,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
you know.
One of the initiatives that's just springing up in my community right now that I'm so thrilled by is rock painting.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So somebody shared in one of our signal groups some photos that I think they found they were out at a beach or something. And I think they found a tile that somebody had painted on. I don't even remember what was painted on it, but then it also had some URLs of some organizations on the backside or something. And so it just started a little conversation about, oh, that look, we should do some rock painting. That looks like fun. So we're just getting a little group together to do some rock painting. And it's a way for people to get together and do something creative and community oriented and fun and bonding and also spread hopeful messages of love and resistance, and I'm just delighted and thrilled.
I love it. So you've worked really hard to get a book out into the world, and that is no joke. And now comes the time when you have to promote that book. And I know how uncomfortable that is. I got one sitting back there that I almost never talk about. And so I want to ask you, how are you doing around that feeling that your work, even a book that you deeply believe in clearly, feels insignificant to talk about next to what's going on in the world? How you doing with all that?
It is no joke, Yvonne. It's I talk about that a lot just in my community, how multiple things can be true at the same time. I have this book that I'm proud of. I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback from my launch team, who is currently reading the book and reviewing it, and also sending me private messages, private emails, and saying really positive things about it, which feels so validating. So I know that I'm putting something out in the world that is going to be useful for people. So that feels really good.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there is this feeling like this sort of existential, um, what's the word? Nihilistic feeling of what does it matter? The two things are true at the same time. That yes, I'm putting a lot of energy into getting this book launched, getting reviews for the book, and part of me feels like, who cares? The world is burning. Both
Yeah.
things are true.
Right. So how do you keep going?
It's a struggle every day. I'm not entirely sure how to answer that question.
Oh, I have an idea. I have not read your book because it's brandy new, but I know that you talk about the power of small experiments to help people feel a sense of agency. Am I on target with that?
Yeah, so the book is built around 52 micro experiments. The subtitle is 52 Micro Experiments for Brave Leaders Who Want to Unstick Teams, Spark Ideas, and Build What's Next. And it's really aimed for leaders of teams, but you and I were talking earlier, and it could be adapted for solo entrepreneurs because if you think about it, they face the same human barriers
Mm-hmm.
that the book addresses, perfectionism being a big one, overthinking, fear of failure, but they experience them in an even more concentrated way, and there's no team to hide behind.
Mm-hmm.
So every creative block is a revenue block, right? If you're a solo entrepreneur.
Yep. Who's
So
the bottleneck? I
right, exactly. And the team is like your ecosystem, your clients, your collaborators, your contractors, your mastermind group,
am. Uh-huh.
your own internal resistance could be your team.
Yeah.
So it could be adapted certainly for solo folks as well.
Can you think of any little experiments that you might run for yourself?
Yeah, you know
An
what? Number
experiment?
one is kind of the flagship experiment. And it's so related to what we were talking about earlier. It's called the Crappy First Draft Showcase.
Mm,
This could be
excellent.
really great for if you're in a mastermind group. I
Uh-huh.
think this would be a great one to run. And it's super easy. You just set a 10-minute timer, and every person takes those 10 minutes and makes a crappy first draft of whatever it is you're working on. Some deliverable. So, if you're in a writing group, you take 10 minutes and you make a crappy first draft of your whatever you're writing.
Yeah.
And the only rule is it has to be deliberately terrible.
I love it. It really is so freeing. It takes us right back to the big bad actor, who
Exactly.
does.
And then
Yeah.
you share, and some person has to go first. So if you're in a team, it would be the team leader who goes
Hmm.
first to model vulnerability. And when you share, you are not sharing to critique it in any way. You're sharing to model that you get to do things. It's okay to just start and let it be crappy.
And as a leader, to show up and show your crappiness in front of your team,
Exactly.
that is leadership. I mean, that shows people that on so many levels, it's like a leader being vulnerable with their team. It's modeling for the team then to be like, oh, this is okay. This is
Absolutely.
safe,
Exactly. It
right?
really helps to establish that psychological safety.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is amazing. I'm so glad we got to have this conversation today. Where are people going to be able to get a hold of your book or get in touch with you?
Yeah. So you can actually get a preview of the book at innovationatwork.com/preview.
Okay,
And you can find me and also the book at melissadinwiddie.com.
perfect. And I'll have links in the show notes so that you can find Melissa after
Perfect.
the fact. Melissa, thank you so much.
Ah, Yvonne, thank you so much for having me. This has been just like like sitting at a coffee shop and chatting with you. It's
Oh, good.
so delightful.
I feel the same way. For those of you listening, before we wrap up, I want to share something that I've been reminding myself of lately is that when things feel heavy and the world feels like a lot, and play and creativity can feel like luxuries that we just don't have time for, I feel that too. But man, this conversation with Melissa was such a good reminder that it isn't escapism. Play and creativity, not escapism, it's fuel. And it's how we restore our capacity to think clearly and stay connected and keep showing up without burning ourselves out, especially in hard times. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're listening there. Share it with somebody if you think that they might need a little boost right now, and let me know what stood out for you. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, bloom like you mean it.